What's going on YouTube? Jamie Potter here, PhD in Organizational Behavior from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Today I'm talking about one of my favorite papers. I know I probably say that every week, but this one is really a quirky, clever idea. It probably happens to all of us, so I find it so interesting. I probably read it the first time 7 or 8 years ago, and it's always stuck in my head, so I'm really excited to review it this week. It's kind of relevant currently because it talks about distributed collaboration. In other words, if I'm on a team where there's somebody from Europe, somebody from Asia, it's not often that we're able to be in the same room together, co-located, communicating actively. Instead, we're often sending emails or Slack messages and not hearing back for 5 or 10 hours or a day or two, which makes collaboration kind of tricky. And so this paper looks at what happens when you're on these teams and there are delays in communication. Let's say you send an email on Wednesday, you expect a response back on Friday, but you don't actually get it. You don't get one until the next Tuesday. That obviously harms collaboration in a lot of ways. But how does it harm the perceptions of others on the team? And the sort of easy, obvious answer, which would not warrant a paper, is that if people delay their communications when they're on distributed teams, they're viewed less positively, right?
Until the magician produces a rabbit from a hat, like that.
Wrong, because what actually happens here, and they draw on one of my favorite theories as well, which is called Expectancy Violations Theory, which says, again, kind of a simple idea, but a very important idea, that when people violate expectations or norms, it's not always a negative thing for them. People do not always view them negatively. Instead, it depends on their initial status. In other words, if I view them highly to begin with, an expectancy violation is actually a positive thing. Whereas if they're sort of lower status, entry-level employee, an expectancy violation is bad. But if they are sort of higher status, the boss, expectancy violation theory would suggest that their high status may mean that expectancy violations, when they break the rules in some way, it's actually positive. And I think you can think of examples like this, sort of the genius entrepreneur, the Steve Jobs. When he breaks the rules, we don't view it as a really negative thing. We would actually view it as, wow, he's just a genius, so he kind of has to break the mold. So it's really fascinating. This paper draws on that idea to show that in these distributed teams, when a high status person, like the boss, delays their email, you expect to get an email in a day, but you actually get it in a week, you actually view them as higher status when they delay, presumably because they're busy, they have so many things to do, they can't possibly respond to this. So when they say, hey, sorry about the delay here, in your head you're going, wow, they must be so busy and so important, which they might be. But drawing on this expectancy violation theory, that sort of describes why this is. And I'm sure most people have experienced this. I certainly have. When you email the partner at the firm or the CEO and they don't respond for 2 weeks, you're like, man, they're really high status and important. So this paper is really cool. It has a lot of practical implications. For one, it suggests quite obviously, if you're low status, make sure to not violate norms or expectations. It's going to be bad. But it's kind of interesting that if you start developing higher status, if you're moving up in the hierarchy, violating expectations, violating norms, even delaying your emails can actually be good for you. It makes you feel, makes others look at you and say, wow, he or she must be really important. So not that I'm saying intentionally delay emails, although I know certain people do, especially in larger firms. It's good for your image sometimes to sort of say, I'm really busy, I didn't get around to this. But it can help you if you do happen to have a delay, and hopefully it's a legitimate one. Anyway, that is all for me. I love this paper. I'm going to link to it in the description below. In the meantime, I hope you're enjoying the videos. I hope you're enjoying the new microphone. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel, check out my older videos, and then comment below, as always, with what you'd like to see in subsequent weeks. And until next time, have a good weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye.